Hello, everybody, and welcome to Brew Review, a Commander deck building podcast. I'm your host, Cody, and today we have a bit of royalty on the podcast. Empress Quinn is joining me for this episode. How you doing, Quinn?
Yeah, that's me. Hey, gamers. Cody, you flatter me. Thank you so much for having me.
So I was doing some research for this episode, and I was like, what is the game we played together? Because it's not in my. I tracked my Commander games, and I was like, it's not. It was literally on December 1st of last year that we played together for the first time ever. It was on Amara, Goddess of Plunders. We
Oh,
were playing the Secret Santa decks. And I was like, when did we play this game together? The reason I'm bringing this up is because I remember I was super nervous before that game because in my head I was like, oh my god, this is like my first time playing with like big name streamers with like Amara and you. And I was like, Quinn has been on Shuffle Up and Play. Who am I? Like I'm getting to play with this person. Like what's happening?
the secret
So
is I was also asking who am I in the situation where I was asked to be on Shuffle Up and Play. So feelings mutual.
I mean, that had to be like such a cool moment, though, right?
Oh yeah, probably like one of the not even probably, definitely one of the coolest things that I've ever done or gotten to be a part of. Extremely
For
fun
sure.
time.
That's awesome. Yeah. So for the people who don't know, Quinn, what do you do in the Magic community?
Yeah, let's do the whole intro thing. Hey gamers, I'm Empress Quinn. Find me on Twitter at GirlDickEnergy. I run my mouth in the Twitch chat at GirlRedactedEnergy. I be co-hosting the Heroes Blade Vibe Check podcast with the homie Cole. And I also co-host the MTG Lexicon Twitch stream playing EDH on Saturday evenings with the dive bar of EDH Energy. That's what I'd be getting up to in the community. And I also just like post a lot about cards that I like and decks that I'm brewing on Twitter. And I think that draws people in because they like my enthusiasm.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll have a link down below to everything like Lexicon and Heroes Blade Vibe Check. Yeah, I think that was one of the initial things that I started following you for is because you just have such every time you post about a deck, you bring such like a raw energy to it. Like you are so hyped for it that I get hyped for it with you. And
I
I
am
think
truly hyped for all of my builds.
I also feel like you bring some of like the most unique ideas. Like you have a 4-color like dinosaur reanimator deck, and like I'm like, who does that? Like what? But, like I feel like you do like you bring a lot of insane but really cool ideas to the table with decks, and I like that. That's something we always strive for here at Brew Review. It doesn't always come across. Usually, sometimes we just have like a basic deck, but we try to have something fun here and there. But you really exemplify that. Like you do really great work.
Oh, thank you. That is truly warm and fuzzying in my heart to hear. I do try and bring that like unique twist to a lot of the decks that I play and build. I mean, sometimes we just like take the thing off the shelf because like it still tastes good, you know?
Hmm.
Like, but yeah, I like to put my own spice on things. And I figured for Dinosaur Reanimator in particular, just like they're still larges that are 7/6 mana for some of the really big ones. I'm just like, we treat other reanimation targets the same with the same mana values, so I can just do that with dinosaurs. And it's funny because Jurassic Park.
Yeah, that's really cool. So today we're going to sit down. We're going to learn a little bit about you, and then we're going to talk about a deck, your signature deck. I think many people might have heard of. They might have seen you playing on Shuffle Up and Play. But first off, how did you get introduced to Magic?
I sort of like brushed hands with Magic the Gathering a couple of times over the years before I actually started playing. Like, I think in elementary school, I don't remember exactly the year, I was at a birthday party and there were some gamers there playing Magic the Gathering. And I think I learned the rules then. That was back when Mana Burn was still a thing. They were playing a
Mm,
lot of Kamigawa cards like Arashi the Sky Asunder and Oni of Wild Places. Did not understand what was going on there at
yeah.
all. And then completely forgot about that for several years until I think we met some friends in high school or maybe after that. It's who played Magic the Gathering. I also worked at like a retail job that sold like sealed Magic the Gathering products, like just the like pre-constructed
Hmm.
decks in the like card games and collectibles aisle. So I was just like, oh sweet, I can maybe get into Magic the Gathering here. And so I bought I think sacrifice precon for No, not that one. It's around then, though. One of those Innistrad sets. It had the Blood Artist, I think, the like first printing of that, and then the foil Harvester of Souls that I
Oh,
still
okay.
have to this day, actually.
That's awesome.
I didn't ever find anyone to play with though, so we didn't get
Oh,
anywhere with that. It was mostly just a collecting situation. I think I had also inherited some cards from gamers in like middle school and stuff, so I'm just like accumulating cards but never actually getting to play them. And this persisted into my adult life. Every once in a while I would like inherit a collection and not actually like do any of the card gaming because people are always getting out of the game at the time that I'm like, hey, I kind of like that.
yeah.
So the thing that finally got me in was just like being a grown ass adult and deciding, all right, I've had enough of this. I'm gonna actually get into Magic the Gathering now. And the time that this was happening was around the like Throne of Eldraine pre-release. So I went to that and got absolutely wrecked and opened a foil Piper of the Swarm as my like pre-release promo, and that sort of like sparked a lifelong love of rats and Magic the Gathering. I still like those guys. And we also opened a Sir Conrad the Grim, who, as you all know, I refer to as my husband and your friend. So yeah, that guy definitely holds a special place in my heart. I think after that pre-release, I went and played some Commander with people who were like left over from that,
Hmm.
and they handed me an Ayara First of Lochthwain deck, and I ended up winning that game by ultimating the Liliana of the Dark Realms and
Oh, wow.
casting Army of the Damned and flashbacking Army of the Damned, and just like making 26 zombies with Ayara on the battlefield usually ends games. So somebody
Yeah.
just like handed me a deck that was like going to do very well regardless of what was going on. So I thank them for providing me with that excellent experience because that shit got me fucking hooked, gamers. I am always trying to advance the game state meaningfully via the reduction of life totals. And if I can do that with combat and burn damage, then that's the way that I want to do it. And Ayara showed me that you don't have to be a red mage to do that, but you can. From there, it was the rest is history, I think they say. We got into Commander on Twitch and just like watched a bunch of content, joined Discord servers, and started hanging out on Twitter and getting stream appearances like that.
I mean, very similar because, like, yeah, I remember I watched a Command Zone video. It had Post Malone and it popped up as like a recommended video. And from there, I texted Laz, my co host, and was like, "You play Magic?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah, go buy one of these precons." He gave me like a list. And I
Nice.
bought the Naya Obun one.
Oh,
And
hell yeah.
playing it, I was like, big stompy creatures turn stuff sideways. Reminds me of Yu Gi Oh! I'm in. And yeah, kind of from there, it's just consuming it every day, thinking about it every day. So yeah, very. I definitely I can't think of the word. I'm blanking right now.
Yeah, we just like had a similar experience of making number go up and that hooking us and making us into the enfranchised Magic the Gathering players that we are today.
Yeah, for sure. So what is it about? Because I know you as well, or I've seen you play with some Yu-Gi-Oh cards here and there. What is it about Magic that kind of got you like hooked? Like, for a lot of people, it is the mana system because it kind of provides a more fair way to play the game.
Mhm.
There's also just the lore and things like that. So what is it about Magic that kind of has stuck with you?
I think it's having MTG Arena, honestly. Also played the tutorial of that early in my Magic the Gathering career, and the mono green deck in the color challenge, I think they have you play
Hmm.
like Season of Growth and this guy who, whenever you target it with a spell, it draws a card. I think it's like Gnarled Rhino and it's got Trample or something. So they set you up so that you have the Rhino and you have Season of Growth on the battlefield and you have an instant like pump spell in your hand. And they tell you to go to combat and you cast the pump spell targeting your Rhino and you trigger Season of Growth and draw a card and you resolve the pump spell and draw another card. And then they like script it so that you draw into more pump spells so that you can keep casting spells in the middle of
Oh
combat and
yeah.
making your guy large out of nowhere. And gamers, the stars emojis in my eyes at that moment, I understood
Yeah, that would
synergy
definitely
is
do
what
it.
hooked
Yeah,
me.
very fair, very fair. Yeah, I guess that is a very important part because, like, it's always very cool when your deck synergizes and does the thing that you built it to do. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So what is your favorite part about Magic outside of synergy? Is it because you are, like I said, you're deck building all the time. You're coming up with the creative brews. Is it the deck building part of it that kind of keeps you going?
Probably, yeah. There's always a new concept to explore in Magic the Gathering. Like earlier today, they were like, well, not today, yesterday at this point. Um, I was looking at that like 5 color rooms commander and was
Oh
just
yeah,
like, well, I don't want all 5 of the colors. What if I just had 3 of them and then played rooms like that? And I was just like, I mean, we can try. So I put a bunch of cards together into the 99 and then got some friends together to play test it, and it works. And you can just keep doing that. Like, there's always a harebrained scheme that I have, and I just like,
yeah,
well, let's give it a shot.
yeah,
And that it works more often than not.
yeah. I mean, I think a big example of that is your Ezio list. For people who don't know, Ezio is technically a 5 color commander,
Mm-hmm.
but you can play with all swamps. And like our buddy Alan made the deck, and the first couple of games he was like struggling because he was playing all these tap lands and stuff. And I was like, buddy, like just to trust me here. I've seen it in play. You could just run a bunch of swamps because of the free running. And like after the second game where like he just had tap lands endlessly, he was like, I think I might just throw in a bunch of swamps. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
yes. I was like, it works. I promise. I've seen it.
Yeah, from the
And that's all
beginning, I
that
was
comes from
like,
you.
Ezio says that I can cast assassins for free running black, and that means I only ever need swamps to cast any of the 5 color assassins. So I'm just like, sick. I'll just have swamps and command towers and we'll be fine from there. We literally are. It's so fine every time. It's so funny. So every time I see a 5 color deck in the wild and they don't have like just swamps in their Ezio deck, I'm just like, it'd be a lot cooler if you did.
Yeah. It inspired me to do Gila, but I was doing all my lands were mountains, and like I had like a chromatic lantern. It was like all just mono red warriors, and I play tested it like 20 times. Gila is still very busted no matter how you build it.
Yeah,
But I
unfortunately,
was like,
she
you
is
can do
very
this. Like
strong.
yeah, it functioned just fine. It's just way too strong for like what I want to play. So, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I was definitely inspired by that.
That's so sick that you gave that a shot though, because you do only need the like mono red for her, and then you just like if you get that chromatic lantern, boy,
Yeah, it pops
GG's.
off. Yeah. So you do a little bit of like, you mean you stream with Lexicon, your podcast with Cole on Heroes Blades 5 Check.
Mhm.
So what made you kind of want to get into content creation and with Magic? A lot of people just really want to play the game, but some people want to create. And so have you always kind of had that creative outlet where you wanted to do stuff and like Magic was just a way to bridge that gap, or
I've always wanted a small but loyal internet following, and
a cult, you would say?
that's one way one could describe it. I maybe wouldn't use that particular word, but
Mm-hmm.
just a small but loyal internet following. So I'm just like posting my thoughts and stuff online, and if people resonate with that and they want to hang out with that regularly and hit the follow button, then like that's extremely cool to me. So it's kind of just like a slipped and fell into it. Basically, I was hanging out in a Discord server and then got in a game with Lenny at a Johnny's Gay Pride Mate, who introduced me to the co-hosts of MTG Lexicon. And hanging out there regularly, I started showing up on that stream, and then from there, people like seeing me play Magic the Gathering on that stream, and another um, like I got asked to be another guest slots, and that sort of proliferates into additional guest appearances, and then yeah, people, yeah, I don't know, like want to follow along to see where else I'm gonna show up and the stuff that I post.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah. I mean that all. I see. I always wondered because like, Cole invited me to the Lexicon Discord, and I always thought you were just kind of there from the
Mhm.
beginning. I didn't realize that they were. I know
No, I'm actually the like success story of like a good person in chat to like a host now.
that's awesome. How do you like hosting the Twitch stream? It's always something we've considered here, but like life just gets in the way of things, and so how
Mhm.
did you enjoy it? Is it?
Yeah, I think it's a great time. I get to hang out with my friends first and foremost, and I also get to have my homies in chat who keep us honest on rules, add additional commentary, and just like funny stuff that we might not have thought about. Every once in a while, we get like a deck ideas sparked in there. I can't think of any off
Mhm.
the top of my head, but people be posting. They've got some cool ideas in chat that they're working on.
Yeah, I love when I get to come on. Y'all are Pacific time, so it's always really really late for me whenever. But I think it was a couple weeks ago where like I didn't. It was like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, I cannot function. I am not interacting at all, and I feel terrible right now. But you know what? We're here and we're having a good time.
Oh man, that's
But
so late for you.
yeah.
Well, thank you
There's a
for
lot of
coming
people on the
through.
Pacific Coast, and like as someone on Central, it's like 2 hours after, and so it's always like, oh, can you do this at 10 o'clock at night? And I'm like, I'm gonna hate myself tomorrow, but sure. I mean, we can make it work.
Yeah, like I can do it, but not comfortably.
Yeah, but yeah. Lexicon is a great time. Definitely, people. If you're looking for a nice Saturday night thing to do, go check out the Lexicon stream. And if you have a webcam set up, definitely sign up to play. It's a lot of fun.
Mhm.
Um,
I'm like a constantly premiering something that I brewed either the day of or like that week over there.
yeah.
So if you want that stuff that's like hot off the presses, that's where you find it.
And how is you and Cole been doing Here's My Vibe Check? I believe since mid of last year, and it was
That
like
sounds right,
middle.
yeah.
Yeah. As have did you do a podcast before? Is this your first podcast?
I have a project that I do on the MTG Lexicon YouTube called DrownedSecrets.fm, where
Hmm.
I sort of like with smooth jazz radio DJ energy and lo-fi hip-hop beat that I produced in the background tell tales of how people absolutely fucking died in games of Commander.
Okay. All right. I like that. I'll have to check that out. I don't think I've seen that.
Yeah, I think there's 4 or so episodes. I would love to get back to doing that. So give me your energy swords in the comments and your support, and maybe I will use that to fuel the production of an episode because it does require like making an original beat and doing all of the rest of that.
Oh yeah. That definitely sounds like quite a task to do. But yeah, if anyone has any stories about how they died in Commander, we'll have to send them that way.
Yeah, use hashtag drownsecrets.fm on Twitter and make sure you spell out dot. That's part of the bit.
The longest hashtag ever. Do you have any like least favorite parts about being a content creator? Is there anything that kind of a lot of people don't see on when they're watching things like that? We like to say positive, but there's always that one thing that kind of
Every
um,
once in a while, a post will like break containment, and
mm,
people who maybe don't understand the metagame that you're building for offer suggestions or start being like kind of like aggressive about the like inclusions in your deck or whatever. And it's just like, my sibling in cardboard, we smoke mids where I'm from, and like maybe you guys smoke that loud, and like that's cool and fine. I like that too, but like primarily we smoke mids over here. So like my everything that I'm rolling is going to be mids, you know?
mhm. Yeah, it's something that like I've struggled with because like we're both in the Legendary Creature podcast Discord, and that's probably
Mhm.
like one of the first places I felt like comfortable posting a deck and being like, hey, can I get ideas for this? But like
Mhm.
other places, when you post a deck, it's immediately like, why aren't you running all the Shocklands? Why aren't you running a Mana Crypt in here? And it's like, and those are extreme examples, but there's also just like sometimes there's just bad cards that like are fun to play, and people are
Mhm.
like, why are you running this terrible card when you could run something a million times better? And it's like, I, I don't want to run like a Cyclonic Rift. I don't want to run like I just want my dumb stupid card that bounces 2 targets.
And just like, no, dude, you don't understand. I have a pre-release promo of this card, and that's why we're playing Piper of the Swarm
Exactly.
still.
It's got the stamp on it. I gotta play it. Yeah. So I can definitely echo that sentiment because yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Like you have a lot bigger following than I do, so I'm sure you get it a lot worse, just because there are all these eyes constantly on Twitter looking to like give unsolicited advice on stuff. When really it's just sometimes you just want like if I post about my Shanid deck, I just want to post about like how it did a cool thing. I don't want you to come to me and be like, why are you playing this lame ass legendary that does nothing for your deck? Like I don't need that.
Yeah, they'd be like, "Why are you on that land that, like, removes First Strike or Mountain Walk from a creature or whatever?" And you just like, "Because it's legendary, please relax."
Yeah, please just let me. I mean, I'm just doing everything I can to draw cards here. What do you want from me? um, but yeah. Do you have any hobbies outside of Magic?
For a while, I actually grew, like, plants. The
Oh.
plants in my Twitter bio, you not my Twitter bio, but, like, the header, it's a
Mhm.
photo of, like, the plants that I grew and a photo that I took of them. And I did that for a while. I don't anymore and haven't, but I do miss it dearly. I really liked the, like, meditative nature of just, like, these are guys that are gonna take several months to get, like, from seed to harvest,
Yeah.
and, you're gonna be along for the whole ride, so you gotta just, like, lock in and understand that you like, it's gonna be some time before you see the fruits of your labors, and you need to be okay with that and appreciative of the entirety of the process.
Yeah. Yeah. My partner is she's always like, "Oh, we should make a garden. We should have a garden. We should have like we should just put all these plants in it." And like I'm not the patient type with that. So like I'm always like, why don't we just buy the already everything's already done for us and go from there." But I do think there is probably, like it's gotta be really, like you said, rewarding to sit there and watch something grow and cultivate it and
TBH,
you
if
know
you can do it and get from seed to harvest, it's incredible for your ego. You do feel like a mother plant goddess, and you like nobody can tell you shit. Like I have brought this from a fucking seed that I put in the ground and have poured water on every couple of days for several months. And now I've got this big, beautiful plant, and that's entirely based on my doing. And that shit feels incredible.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I can imagine. One of my partner's aunts, she has, like, a whole like, she grows pumpkins and watermelons and cucumbers, and, like, we went over there for, 4th of July, a couple months ago, and, like, half the food they were feeding us was stuff that they had grown, and I was like, "This seems pretty cool. Okay, I get the point of this now."
Yeah, that would
But
feel
yeah.
like such a big flex. I would be like, "You can't tell me shit. All of this here I grew. What do you want?"
Yeah. Alright. I think we're gonna move on. So, another part of this episode is we're gonna be talking about your signature deck. And like I said, at the top of it, we're going to be talking about Alling Mine, also called Devil Squad. I'm excited to hear about
Yeah.
this. Why don't you kind of walk us through, like, how did you come up with the idea for this deck? Because I think a lot of people are probably asking themselves, what is an Owling Mine?
So, the name of the deck is from, actually a really old standard deck that based on the same strategy, where
Okay.
you try and put into play the cards Howling Mine and Ebony Owl Netsuke. And you also want effects like Howling Mine, like Kami of the Crescent Moon. There we go. I always refer to him as that double cheeked up Kami because of
Yeah.
the art of Kami of the Crescent Moon and just like completely forget the card's real
Oh, God.
name.
Yeah.
So yeah, the actual like main inciting incident, so to speak, for this deck is Zerzoth Chaos Rider. I wanted to play Zerzoth in a way that wasn't just wheels. And every Zerzoth deck that I had seen prior to that was kind of just like a wheels deck. So I figured if I put him in the 99 of a 3 color deck, that would open me up to some more options. I could play the game plan of forcing cards into people's hands with that Kami of the Crescent Moon, and then punishing them for having cards in their hands or for drawing extra cards, like how Zerzoth makes a devil, or all of the like sudden impact type effects like a rune flare trap will burn them for the number of cards in their hand. That's my like payoff for forcing all of these cards into your hand. Uh, oh, I guess I should read my owl first. Ebony Owl Netsuke says at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, if that player has 7 or more cards in hand, Ebony Owl Netsuke deals 4 damage to them. So my game plan is to ensure that you start your turn with 7 cards or more, and then my owl will bonk you. And I sell all of this like I'm the evil game master and you're here for my entertainment. So I'm giving you all of these resources with which you can entertain me, but you better do your best to entertain me and empty your hand, otherwise my owl is gonna get you.
I like this deck so much because yeah, I like that you're kind of like it's group it's group hug slash group slug where it's like you're helping people by giving them more cards, but also just like like you said, not Natsuke damaging before, but there's so many cards in this deck where it's just like I don't want to have cards in my hand. And then like I played against this and I was playing Shanid, and my life is already going down because anytime I play a legendary creature, Shanid's pinging me for one. And
Mm-hmm.
then I'm also drawing cards, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to be drawing cards right now. Oh
Mm-hmm.
no. So yeah, it was my
You're
life
like
was dropping quick.
desperately trying to empty your hand, like, please, 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 can I get below 7? And she needs, like, draw another card, draw another card.
Yep. Yeah. We talked a little bit before. Before Balloon Burrow, I was trying to make a Quain Iterant Meddler
Mm-hmm.
deck work out as a group hug deck, and I found the Ivory Crane Natsuke, the one that says at the beginning of your upkeep you have 7 more cards in hand, you gain 4 life. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I want to build this deck just to play against Quinn, just so we can have Ebony Owl out and the Ivory Crane out, and it's like nothing's happening to me over here. Haha.
That would be extremely funny, except you can scroll to my enchantment section and take a look at the card Everlasting Torment, which says,
That is one thing I'll say for you, Quinn. I feel like there are cards you play that I'm like, oh wow, I have never seen people play these cards, but they are mean cards sometimes. Although, to fair, as someone who plays Tavash, Gloom Summoner, any card that says players can't gain life gets me sweating.
yeah, it feels really aggressive and targeted, but the fact of the matter is, Owling Mine at its core is a burn deck.
Hmm.
And to a burn deck, a sufficient quantity of life gain, in addition to other game actions, is indistinguishable from a time warp. And we
Yeah,
don't just give people extra turns, so we have to tech against that. So I play that Everlasting Torment. I play Tybalt, Rakish Instigator. Both of these are saying that my opponents aren't going to gain life. We're just going to make sure that this game keeps moving in the correct direction.
very fair, very fair. I guess we should talk about the commanders of the deck because from basing on the reading, so currently it says Keskit, Flesh Sculptor, and Ludovic, Necro Alchemist, but it's kind of a modal deck where you swap the commanders kind of as you see fit, correct?
Yeah, so I play Ludovic Necroalchemist always because he gives me the base red blue coloring that I need for the deck. He's
Hmm.
also a blood activated Howling Mine, basically, because at the beginning of each player's end step, they can draw a card if the player other than me lost life that turn. His 1/4 stats and that text together paired serves to direct traffic elsewhere and kind of just like encourage the attacking game plan and that sort of thing. People will really go for that extra card, and it's like advantageous to do it, even if I'm pinging you for one. Like people will still, even though it's like a May on the card, they'll carefully weigh their options. Like, yeah, I can afford 1 damage. I'll draw.
Yeah.
I love a greedy mage. They always do that. The
I
other
mean,
guy, oh, sorry, go
people
ahead.
are greedy. So, yeah.
The other guy originally, Casket Flesh Sculptor, was planned to be a like card advantage and selection engine to use with my devil tokens that I make with like Zerzoth or other sources. I found in playing that I just never want to be doing what he asks, so I don't think he's like the best choice, but I do keep him in here because that's the original like thought for the deck, and occasionally it does pay off. But the most frequent partner that I choose for it are these two in the sideboard: Vile Smasher the Fierce and Tevish Slot Doom of Fools. I think I'm going to need a more powerful card advantage engine that I guaranteed have access to if I'm trying to like maybe punch a little higher, like above my weight class because of the like average card quality of my deck. Then I
Hmm.
play Tevish Dot in the command zone so that I can like see more cards and get to the good ones better. If it's a bars closing in 45 minutes situation, then we pick Smasher, and I can just like advance the game state meaningfully via the reduction of life totals by simply taking game actions. And that really helps to limit the amount of time we spend here.
Yeah. I like this a lot. I love like we did a episode where like it was called the second spell slinger where like we had all the like Thunder Junction like draw your second card commanders, and it was like, oh, you can swap them kind of however the table is feeling. So I like this a lot. I love like decks where you can swap the commanders kind of as the power level either increases or decreases, or just like you said, hey, we got time for a 45-minute game. Let's just start punching people with
Yeah,
spells.
I'll put
So
Smasher in the command zone and ask if we want to start with a Descent into Avernus Emblem.
yeah. Um, so we know the play style of the deck is give people lots of cards, ping them to death. You're making a lot of devils. The devils are usually pinging somebody for some kind of damage somewhere.
Yeah, there's that, and there's also just like they're providing shitty choices. Let's look at some of these devils actually.
Yeah.
My biggest example of this is Vexing Devil, who's a 1 mana 4/3 who says when he enters the battlefield, any opponent may have it deal 4 damage to them. If a player does, sacrifice Vexing Devil. And I always get to find out who wants to be the hero of that
Mm-hmm.
session. Because a lot of the times gamers will be like trying to put off that responsibility, look around the table, like, oh, I don't think I want to pay for that. And
Yeah.
every once in a while, somebody, before I even finish the sentence, will be like, I'll do it. I'm jumping on that grenade. And I'm just like,
I
all
love that.
right, identified.
Yeah. So going with that, one of my favorite cards in this list is Raphael Fiendish Savior. I had a deck built around Raphael demons for the longest time, and it eventually just kind of went away.
Mhm.
But I recently started looking at rebuilding it based around like devils and stuff. And Vexing Devil was one that I was like, oh, this is really cool because either I'm picking someone for 4 or Raphael's out, and now it's a 5/4 with lifelink.
Oh, yeah, somebody's
You win no
definitely going
matter
to
what.
take the 4 in that case. And you do, I guess, just make that devil on your end step then.
Oh yeah. Um,
Another awful choice devil that I have is Sin Prodder, who's a 3/2 with Menace for 2 and a red. And at the beginning of my upkeep, I reveal the top card of my library, and any opponent may have me put that card into my graveyard. If a player does, then Sin Prodder deals damage to that player equal to that card's mana value. Otherwise, I put that card into my hand. So, like, either you get burned or I get to draw an extra card.
very strong. Yeah, I like this like kind of like it almost is like you're playing like the angel demon on shoulder, being like, "Oh,
Mhm.
you should draw cards. Oh, do you want to take some damage?" I like that. I like the way
Love
this is
to
going.
offer a villainous choice.
Yeah.
Um, this other we're going to jump to the Pain's Reward in the sorcery section. As an example of a choice that I like to offer my opponents, you may bid any amount of life. In turn order, each player may top the high bid. The bidding ends if the high bid stands. The high bidder loses life equal to the high bid and draws 4 cards. So I get to just auction off, draw 4 cards, and see how hard people want to go for that. And this spell in particular is so funny because there's always a greedy mage who
Oh yeah.
wants those 4 cards and will do anything to have it. And there's always a petty mage who will do anything to stop them from drawing 4 cards. And finding out who those two are and pushing the bid just enough that the greedy mage will still do it and the petty mage is like really like squirming thinking about whether or not they're going to outbid them. It's delicious. It creates some of the most fun gameplay experiences.
I've never seen this card, but yeah, I imagine this has got to be really fun to see go on. What's like the highest you've seen someone bid before?
Um, I cannot remember off the top of my head, but I have tweeted about it a couple of times, and I
Okay.
usually tag it with something like another satisfied customer.
That's awesome. So while we're looking at sorceries here,
Mhm.
I think a lot of people would look at Burn Down the House and Devil's Playground and be like, the rate for those 2 spells aren't worth it. But in your deck, like, do you feel like
Yeah, it's so bad, but you know
okay.
what? They're the only things that make Footlight Fiends in that quantity, and there's not a lot of spells that do that, and I cut one of the
Mhm.
instants that does, so I really just have to take what I can get, and these
Yeah.
two, like, they'll do. Burn Down the House at least has that mode where I can deal 5 damage to each creature and each planeswalker, so I
Yeah.
can just like kind of damage based clear stuff out if I need to. But otherwise, the 3 1/1 red devils with the death trigger and gain haste is it's not the worst. If I've got like an attack trigger that I'm trying to get, then getting the haste guys that turn is pretty nice. I have things like Hellrider who can take advantage of that. Like if I'm getting that attack trigger, I'm getting the damage from them. And they're all doing their pings, and then I have like damage modifiers who maybe make the blocking on that a little bit more of a difficult decision.
And I think like it's themed very well. Like so when you're building a deck, are you choosing like flavor over functionality a lot of times, or do you try to kind of blend the lines? Because I mean, like definitely past Cody would be like, these are terrible cards. Don't run these cards. But me, I'm like, well, no, it's a devil's deck. Like play the devil's card. Like it's on theme. Like
Yeah, we are sacrificing a lot of raw power for flavor in this deck, which isn't to say that I'm not playing powerful cards. Like I do have a Yawgmoth Threat Physician, and I've got Perforos, God of the Forge, and Mogus, God of Slaughter. So like we're playing extremely powerful cards in a couple of cases. Like Shelly the Apocalypse, she's here.
very strong.
But I'm also playing Spiteful Prankster and Witty Roastmaster and Torch Fiend
Yeah.
and Footlight Fiend because they're devils and they perform the function of being a devil and triggering Zerzoth. And in a lot of cases, just being cute little guys. I do have Mayhem Devil, who's an extremely good devil. I really like that guy paired with Descent into Avernus because it's just like, here's this treasure, use it wisely.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times I can just point that damage at people's faces because they'll be like really like tentative about using the treasures with a Mayhem Devil on the board, and rightfully so. A lot of people will use Mayhem Devil to just like kill every creature if they can, but I think you can condition people to use the treasures if you just send the Mayhem Devil damage at their faces and keep doing that consistently, and people will just like associate spending the treasure with taking more damage, and all of that is contributing to you melting life totals. You've essentially doubled the damage from Descent into Avernus.
Oh yeah, that's yeah. I like that. I like that you can kind of like, you know, it's almost like holding a gun at the table and being like, I mean, I could place this wherever I want, but like you just do that. We're cool. You don't got to worry about it.
Mhm.
So a big thing I've noticed is, would you consider this like your most blinged out deck? Like, is this the deck that you're like constantly trying to like?
Yeah, I do pretty highly prioritize bling printings for this deck. This is actually, I think, the first deck that I brewed on a computer and then printed out and then gradually replaced with real cards. And as we were doing that, is like we were in a situation where I already know that I love all of these cards, so why not get the bling printing? And you do that for every card in a deck. At a certain point you end up with a thing that looks pretty close to something like this. Like I don't
Yeah.
have everything in as blinged as it could be, but a lot of them are pretty close to that.
Yeah, man, I'm just looking at the Phyrexian Eyes, Shieldred the Apocalypse, the Secret Lair, Perforos, that really beautiful Secret Lair Karaza card that just came out. I have
I
one of those,
actually
and I'm
got
like,
the Perforos and Mogus signed by the
oh,
artist in MagicCon last year, so that was awesome.
oh man,
I
that is something I want to
also
start doing.
had Raphael and Justine Jones was there, and I just like didn't put the two together that I could have gotten that signed. And I'm just like, as I'm leaving the convention, was like, no.
Oh,
So we're gonna try again this year if she's there. But yeah, I do want to get like more signatures and like bling printings and stuff because I do really like the deck. And like, yeah, I've got that Secret Lair Karaza card that just came out. He's actually a recent addition to the deck. I cut this foil widescreen Devil God for being just like
Asmodeus.
not what I wanted for this deck.
So that's a good segue here. So is this when it comes to deck building, are you the
Mhm.
type where you're constantly updating decks, or do you let decks sit for a while before you start kind of making swaps? Is it where like every set you're kind of looking, okay, hey, this can go in my Owling Mine deck, this can go in my 4-color dinosaur deck. Like what is your process for upgrading and kind of maintaining decks?
Uh, it really depends. I do kind of just let a lot of decks sit, but every once in a while I'll see a card like Sycorax Commander that came out with Doctor Who, it makes people face a villainous choice where you either discard all of the cards in your hand -1, or you take damage equal to the number of cards in your hand. And that one was just like, oh, that's perfect. It
Yeah.
forces a villainous choice and interacts with card draw and hand size, so I want to put that in the deck. And we found the time for a slot for that there. Karazakar, the card had been out for several years at this point, and we just recently realized that this would be a good card in the deck because it can force the card draw. If I goad creatures, they have to attack elsewhere, and when they do, Karazakar draws us cards. And I just recently put that together and was just like, oh, okay, I can put that in the deck. And so we made that swap. So it's really just like whenever the inspiration strikes, and if I'm motivated to either write out the rules text or acquire the card. If I'm not, then maybe I just like add it to the considering and forget about it.
Yeah, I find it tough because sometimes, like I was actually just talking about this today. I was looking at all the legendary creatures because, like, can I put any of these in Shanid? Probably not. Like, I don't have enough 2-power creatures to put the doll in. What is the giant 9-mana Valvagath?
Yeah, Valgavoth.
Valgavoth. I was like, I don't know if 9 mana in this deck is really worth it for that effect because I really just want to be turning stuff sideways to reduce life totals.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I go back and forth because I'm like, okay, well, don't gotta worry about the set, but I'm like, I want to put new cards in, you know. So
I feel that.
yeah,
Sometimes it is just like there isn't anything in the set for this deck, but there's something in the set for another deck, and that's a perk of having a redacted number of decks. Is you always have something that you could be updating if you wanted to.
for sure. Are there any outside of Howling Mine and Ebony Owl? Is there any spells or cards that you would consider signature? Like when, and obviously, I think everyone knows you for your Descent into Avernus shenanigans. I was hearing at Commander Sealed this past weekend, someone made a Avernus cube.
Yeah, I am so enamored of that idea. I really want to try that because that's extremely my shit. You don't even
Yeah,
need lands because you just don't need them.
it sounds wild. I was like, well, I'd play that. It sounds really interesting. So,
Hmm.
but outside of those three, is there any like cards that are really special to you? Ones that like when you get to play them, you're like, hell yes, like this is it.
Yeah, actually, my friend Caffeinated and other artists have altered some of the cards in the deck. So, Mayhem Devil in particular has my face on it. I have a Hell Rider with embellished extra flames. I have a Bonder's ornament who has been altered so that the girl on it is exhaling smoke and she's holding a joint, and it's like Blazer's ornament.
I like that.
And those are all by Caffeinated. And then my Ebony Owl Netsuke and my Howling Mine are both altered by Beyond the Machina. The Howling Mine is a like the clown mouth roller coaster.
Ooh,
It's just like the Mr. Bones' wild ride energy that the deck puts out. And then the Ebony Owl is a like neon owl in Beyond the Machina's art style.
that's awesome. I like that a lot.
So those I always cheer for. One of the other like signature effects in the deck is Rune Flare Trap. I like to hold on to this one for the last possible moment, and very frequently I can like win the game with the effect. But it's a 6 mana instant, 4 red for instant trap. If an opponent drew 3 or more cards this turn, you may pay red rather than pay Rune Flare Trap's mana cost. And Rune Flare Trap deals damage to target player equal to the number of cards in that player's hand. So every time somebody's just like drawing 50 bajillion cards on their turn because it's their cunning masterstroke and they're going to kill me, and then I'd be like, you've activated my trap card, Rune Flare Trap, and then they take damage equal to the number of cards in their hand.
Oh man, that is sick. I I just recently started looking into more of these trap cards. Joel and Thralamid,
Mm-hmm.
he got me with one where I played like 3 creatures in a turn, and then he just got me for like so much damage with one, and I was like, what just
Nice.
happened? Huh? So yeah, these cards are really sick. I like them a lot, and like I said, very much Yu-Gi-Oh! You've activated my trap card.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta ask, is Red Death Shipwrecker a recent addition?
Yeah, that is a recent addition. We looked at that card and was like, oh, that forces a person to draw a card, and it adds a red mana. That's like basically tailor made for a Howling Mine. I'm gonna put that in the deck. So yeah, we added that in.
I like that card so much. Just a little crab, angry crab.
Yeah, I'm a big fan.
So I guess if you were to recommend this deck to somebody, you know, someone who's never played Grixis, someone who's never seen any of these cards, what is like your big selling point on like this is why this is fun?
This is bad idea. You have to be a little bit of a sicko to force cards into your opponent's hands and consider that a viable strategy, because you are actively handing them the instruments of your destruction. And yet, if you play your cards right and roll high enough on your charisma checks and time the pressure cards appropriately, you can come out on top with like a win. And the thrill of that, like, I've provided you with all of these additional resources, and I just timed it right and flew through the window that I found and won the game. That satisfaction is incredibly high for me.
I think that's a good way to surmise it. I guess who would you say this deck is not for?
Man, if you're a risk averse gamer, it's just not going to be for you. You're going to feel real bad playing all of these cards and not having the density of removal that group hug gamers say that you're supposed to have. The thing is, this is not a group hug deck. I've never once advertised it as that. It's a burn deck. I'm just forcing cards into your hand as the means by which I'm going to burn you.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, just I'm like thinking back to when we played against each other, and just it was such a play style that I was not anticipating. Even though I've seen the deck and play before, as someone playing against it, it is something like very hard to kind of be like, well, I want to dump my entire hand, but like also I want to draw cards because that's like what you want to do in Magic the Gathering is you want to draw your deck and see more cards, but I'm also getting blasted for 4 damage from an owl every time.
It's a delicate balance for all of my opponents to walk, and I have to not play the cards that punish them for having all of that too early. Otherwise, they all like dogpile me before I've developed the board state that I can actually like fend off some of that, and just like figuring out when you're going to play all of that and how to have the maximum effect is a very fun and cool tightrope to walk. I like played this game the other day where I just beginning of the game played a Howling Mine, and we played the Commander Ludovic, and we're just like continually encouraging additional card draws, and then we found that double cheeked up commie. And we're just like, all right, you're drawing this many cards, and then here's an Anvil of Bogarden. Okay, now things are getting a little more complicated. We're adding some psychic damage to that because you have to make more decisions now. The Anvil of Bogarden is basically a Howling Mine that wants you to draw and discard instead of just drawing. And it says players have no max hand size in addition to that. So I'm like doing all of that, and we're starting to get to the like late game section where I've directed enough traffic elsewhere in search of more cards for Ludovic's trigger that I've been able to hang around there, and I have a board state that like is devils and card draw engine. So people are like not super inclined to swing my way because I've got these guys that'll die and then mark more damage in places, and they don't really want any of that. So I'm just like hanging out, playing all of these, and then I'm like, we've been having a lovely evening. It's time to turn up the pressure some more. And then at that point, you start playing your like Obnixilis of the Hate Twisted, who deals 1 damage every time they draw a card, and then
Ooh.
you the next turn play your Underworld Dreams, which whenever an opponent draws a card, it deals 1 damage to them. And then you play your like damage doubler, be that Furnace of Wrath or a Fiendish Duo, who's a damage doubler, who's a devil. And then you start playing effects like Unquenchable Fury, who, whenever your creature attacks, it deals X damage to a defending player, X is the number of cards in their hand. We're like, all right, so the cards that you have been drawing all of this game, now you're going to draw a card and you're going to take 4 damage for each card that you draw. And every time I attack, we're going to count the number of cards in your hand. We're going to deal twice that. Or if I've got Torbrand, it's like that number plus 2. And all of my shitty little 1/1 devils are suddenly lightning bolts when they die, and I can send that to any target. And it just complicates all of the math there. But if you play any of these things at the wrong window, people just aren't having it, and they have the resources to do things about it.
And so I guess that's a good kind of segue into, so like you're in a Grixis deck, you have access to blue, but you're only running 3 instants in the deck. And so like you would think like, run a little bit of counter magic to protect your stuff, but like you don't run any of that. What's kind of the decision behind that? Is it just one of those things where it's like,
this is a Rakdos deck splashing blue, and the Rakdos way isn't to interact with things on the stack. We're just gonna fucking draw more cards and cast more spells about it.
I like that. I like that so much. As a Rakdos gamer, I respect it.
Yeah. I was just like, you killed my devils. Like, that's fine. I have a full grip. We're going to cast more. They were expendable anyway. And I made you pay for it with their death triggers. Whatever. We're moving on.
I like, so like my buddy Alan, he plays a Nekusar deck, and I like that you're kind of like, oh, I don't want a wheels deck. But also like there is definitely some degeneracy you could be doing here with like, any of these ones that ping on draw, being, giving them infect, things like that. You're not doing any of that. So I really like the kind of,
I really wanted
nice
to
kind
have
of like
the Nekusar minus Nekusar experience. So I'm just like, oh, we're cutting Nekusar, we're cutting the wheels, and not like cutting them because I didn't have Nekusar from the beginning, because this started as just like, we want to provide a different version of that experience. So we're just like, yeah, we're going to leave that guy out from the beginning. I think I had Reforge the Soul in the deck for a while, and then was just like, you know what? I don't need it. We're going to cut that too. And so we're just like, yeah, no Nekusar, no wheels, just like straight up owling mine. I'm forcing cards into your hand. I'm punishing you for having cards in your hand. It's just like that deck from Standard that maybe you know about.
As someone who did not know that deck, and now all makes sense. I was like, man, this is really cool. Like, this is a good idea. I've never seen this, but do you find yourself? I know that's a common thing that people like to do, is trying to take a 60 card deck and kind of push it into a commander deck. Is that something you've tried doing with other decks as well?
Oh yeah, that's like my bread and butter, actually. I recently have been playing the Golgari Vinelasher deck in Standard, where you play like Aftermath Analyst to mill lands into your graveyard, and then you have the Iridescent Vinelasher, who has the landfall deal 1 damage to target opponent. And it also has Offspring, so you can make a bunch of little pingers and then mill a bunch of lands into your graveyard and sacrifice the Aftermath Analyst for, I think, like 3 and a green to return all of your lands from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped. And you have cards like Pitiless Carnage to sacrifice any number of permanents, I think, and draw that many cards to put all of your lands into your graveyard so that you can get bigger numbers for the Vinelasher. And it's got Lumra, Bellow of the Woods, who's the big bear from Bloombarrow, who ETBs and mills 4 cards, and then returns all of your lands from the graveyard to the battlefield tapped, and is a Marrow Sorcerer, so like power toughness equal to the number of lands that you have. And just like that, like constellation of cardboard, I found a lot of similar effects and ported that to a 100-card singleton deck for EDH, and chose the Necrobloom as the commander because it's cute and makes zombies. So we've been playing a lot of that recently. There's only one Aftermath Analyst, so I had to dig deep and find other versions of those effects. The Necrobloom giving land cards in my graveyard dredge is a big help for that. So we can return lands and mill 2 instead. And we've also got like Mulch and Grizzly Salvage, all sorts of like, look at the top X cards of your library, put lands or creatures into your hand and the rest into your graveyard. Or the like mill 3 cards and return a creature from your graveyard to your hand. Just like all sorts of those effects, and just sending a bunch of land cards into my graveyard. Because it's EDH, you have to like ramp and draw cards to keep up with the rest of the table, though. So I decided I was going to make my ramp package just like playing extra lands and playing lands off the top of my deck instead of the usual like cultivate, Kodama's Reach or whatever. Because I was like, we're going to be a landfall deck, but I don't want to take up too much of the chess clock with shuffling because I'm already very annoying being a landfall deck. So I'm like, we're not going to do too much. We're going to be very considerate, very mindful. We're going to do the milling on our turn, and we'll do one big return all of the lands to the from the graveyard to the battlefield. And so yeah, it plays out like just like the combo deck there.
That's really awesome. Yeah, 60 card is so. I've never played 60 card. I've tried playing on Arena many times. Never really did well. I like drafting. Like I'll like do like the like free drafts every now and then, or I'll pay to be in a draft. But like I've never really got into 60 card. I heard you talk about it recently on a podcast that you were kind of looking to get into it. And what it was kind of is it just the competitive 1v1 that kind of interests you, or is there?
It's literally just that they have different decks in those formats, and I want ideas for Commander.
Fair. I mean, hey.
Like my Mardu Phoenix's deck is actually like I looked at Arclight Phoenix and the 60 card Phoenix deck, which is usually in blue red, but I am a nerd who saw Extus, the guy from Strixhaven who has that Magecraft trigger that returns cards from your graveyard to your hand. And I thought there could be something here with the instants and sorceries and phoenixes, and I can sacrifice the phoenixes to pay for the casting of Awaken the Blood Avatar and then return them to the battlefield with their Phoenix ability. And so I put together this Mardu Phoenix's deck, and every time I was playing it, I was like not interested in casting Extus and very interested in casting Timna the Weaver. So we would spend all of our time drawing into her and then casting her. And I was like, all right, message received. We'll put Timna in the command zone and find a red partner.
You're part of the problem, Quinn.
I love Timna the Weaver. You could never make me hate her. She's perfect. She encourages mid-range combat that you're supposed to be doing in casual, spreading out the damage and rewarding you handsomely by drawing you up to 3 cards if you have 3 opponents, so that you can draw your next creature. And I'm playing Phoenixes who, I don't know if you've read most of the Phoenixes, but there's a lot of French vanilla flyers. And they're like 3/3s, and I've got like 1 5/3, so that one's cool. But like,
we're going places with that one.
They're extremely medium, and they're doing better. I'm getting some extremely cool Phoenixes lately.
There have been a lot of Phoenixes coming out in sets. At least like one a set. It felt like for a while there. I was like, okay,
yeah, it's a tour. The deck is a tour of like Phoenix with sets mechanic through the ages.
Maybe I should, maybe I should try some 60 card stuff. Maybe it could be fun. Oh man, this was 14 years ago. I had a buddy who was like, let me teach you Magic. Here's a 60 card goblin deck. I'm going to play this control deck.
No.
And I had the worst time.
Yeah.
I think we played one game and I was like, I'm a head out, man. Like, I didn't really enjoy this. Was not the way to teach someone to play Magic. But yeah. So yeah, I think maybe that would kind of like push me away from it for a long time. And then Commander was just like, I like the multiplayer aspect of it. But I'm a competitive person. Like I play shooters online, and I'm very much like the guy who's out there trying to get the best KD and stuff. So I do have that competitive kind of part inside me.
Yeah, so maybe some standard Oomphy. The decks are really fun. They've got Rakdos Lizard aggro if you like to turn sideways. If you like combo, like I was talking about, they've got that Golgari Vine Lasher. There is also the blue-white control deck if you want to turn a nose up at the rest of the options and say, I'm in charge here. If that kind of gameplay appeals to you, you can do that. There's all sorts of things, and standard is really cool and good right now. So like, I don't know, check it out. Print a deck or something.
Okay, all right. I'll have to try it out. We'll see. Duskmourn is right around the corner. Are there any cards from that set that you're looking at for this? I mean that Rakdos Precon's coming out and looking pretty gnarly. Is there anything from there?
I don't think they had any devils, but they did have gremlins. So for Owlingmine specifically, I'm looking at I think in playtesting her name was Mana Barbara, but the gremlin whose Mana Flare plus Mana Barbs is extremely my shit, and usually you're not supposed to provide both halves of the equation. If you're playing a deck like this, like you either want to give them card draw or you want to give them mana. You don't want to give them both. But I think if you have a Mana Flare and the like amount of damage modification that you have at your disposal in this deck, I think it can be all right. So I might find a slot for that. As far as other cards for decks in general, I've been in a fucking brewing frenzy. I've been all sorts of decks. I put together a Grixis Rooms Enchantress deck the other day because I wanted to see about that. We built the mono black Valgavoth because I wanted to see what that guy did. There were cards with Impending and Rooms and the Toby Beastie Befriender that I wanted to play with. So I put all of those in a Jeskai Time Counters deck. I'm really just like experimenting with all of the different archetypes and stuff that they have. I want to take a look at the like red white toy aggro. I've been looking for something that's maybe like Boros and low to the ground and turn sideways, and just like this is an honest aggro deck, and I want to try and maybe lop all of your heads off before you find your board wipe. And if you do that, then that's fine. That's just you know, that's the price of being the low to the ground aggro deck. And yeah, I want that experience.
How did the you got to play the mono black Valgavoth on stream the other day? How did that go?
That is a card and a half. Holy shit. I think you can probably treat that as like a mono black control win condition and build like me personally, I built it more of like mill focused, but I think if you play discard and a higher density of like edict effects like fleshback marauders and stuff like that, you could control the board, buy yourself enough time to land Valgavoth, and then after that, any game actions that your opponents try to take, you have the removal and stuff in your deck that you just like a thing died, trigger a grave pact, you all sacrifice 2 creatures, and now I have these creatures that I can cast and I can spend my life on them. And Valgavoth is a 9/9 with lifelink, so that's free mana for me. And it's basically just like, are you good to pick it up here? Because I think I've won this, and just like you slam Valgavoth, you probably win the game kind of situation.
Yeah, I would say for listeners, Valgavoth Terror Eater is a 6 generic black for an Elder Demon. It has flying lifelink, ward, sacrifice, 3 non-land permanents. If a card you didn't control would be put into an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exiled instead. During your turn, you may play cards exiled to Valgavoth. If you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to its mana value rather than pay its mana cost. And it's a 9/9. That's a house of a card right there.
Yeah, just absolutely bananas. And I had a guy who was just like, I guess, not putting together the things that would happen if he activated his like Jace's Archivist or Whirlpool War or whatever the like activated ability Windfall guy is. So he pushed the button and just sent a bunch of cards into the Moth's lair. And I'm like, why? No. And I was being just an absolute gremlin with it too, because I had Ashiok, Wicked Manipulator from Wilds of Eldraine, who has a static ability that says if you would pay life, you can exile cards from the top of your library instead. So I'm just like, sick. My mana pool is no longer my life total. It's this 100 card stack over here, and I'm just gonna rip cards off the top of it. I don't even care because I'm casting such bangers from my opponents.
That is disgusting. Oh my gosh.
It was bananas. I don't think anyone will ever let me put that together again, and they rightfully should not.
That's, oh man. I would never even thought to put those two together. That's, wow.
I
I'm
don't
excited
think
for those.
anyone's playing Ashiok. I think more people should look at that card. It's actually really strong.
I think there's a good couple cards from Wilds of Eldraine that kind of got looked over that are absolute bangers. And yeah, that Ashiok is one of them. I'm really excited for Duskmourn. The only commander that I'm like tempted to brew currently is Tyvar the Pummeler, just as a dumb mono green kind of punch people in the face kind of deck.
Hell yeah, dude.
But the alt art for him is so sick with like the black frame with like the red demon. I'm like it's just too cool. Like sometimes you just gotta build a deck around cool art.
The art in the set in general looks really good. I'm a huge fan of the showcase treatments for the Overlord cycle.
Oh yeah.
Those in particular look like Pokemon cards, and I think that that is sick as hell. I also like that same treatment for the enduring cycle of glimmers. Those guys they look really good too. I want
Yeah.
to probably try and collect all of them.
Yeah, they're really good. I like them a lot. All right, Quinn. Last question about the Owling Mine. I know we strayed off there for a minute.
No, we're totally fine.
What is like we call it like the you had the game of your life. What is the game of your life with this? What is the moment that you're like, I love this deck. This deck is never going anywhere.
Oh man, I have had so many life-defining moments with this deck. There was one the other day where I timed everything right and then was able to just close the door on the game out from under people's feet. That one felt really good. I had another one where somebody was swinging at me for lethal, and I'm just like, oh, but you've drawn 3 cards this turn, and then I cast the Rune Flare trap and kill them while they're attacking me. I've turned all of my devils sideways and done enough damage with Torbran and like quantity of devils to kill people. I think I've done the Storm Breath Dragon activation to when it becomes monstrous, it deals damage to each opponent equal to the number of cards in that player's hand. I think I've gotten a win with that. One that I haven't put together yet is Yawgmoth Thran Physician and the Locust God. If I have that and Teferi's Ageless Insight, I feed a Locust to Yawgmoth. I draw 2 cards because of the Locust God, and or not the Locust God, but from Teferi's Ageless Insight and Yawgmoth's attack ability.
Yeah.
We make 2 locusts, and then I can just feed my life total into the production of locusts and drawing cards, and then turn those sideways for the win. We haven't put that together yet, but that's one of the achievements I guess we're looking to cross off with the deck.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that especially if you had a Perforos or the Witty Roastmaster out, that would be
I love the
disgusting.
Perforos as that activation that people always forget about, but my awful little 1/1 red devil creatures, I can push that button and creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. We're just look at my damage modifiers, please respond.
And then last but not least, so I guess we covered pet cards. Never mind. Sorry, I'll cut that part.
No, they're all pet cards. I love every one of them.
Every one of them.
Stormfist Crusader, even. She's a red and a black, and at the beginning of my upkeep, each player draws a card and loses a life. Nobody's ever upset to see her. They're always super sad when she goes. I love that. Ironcrag Pyromancer, the art on that is so incredible, and she lightning bolt stuff, and people will be like, yeah, that needs to go. And I'm just like, so you do respect lightning bolt.
I really love the Florian Voldarian Scion. I love that card a lot. I just put that in Shanid not too long ago, just because I was like, 3/3 first strike menace, pretty sick. Get to see some cards later on. I like that a lot.
He's so good with Descendant to Avernus or any of those effects that's take damage on my upkeep or whatever. You just get to see so many cards. I think we have to find slots in the deck for Valgavoth Terror Eater, or not Terror Eater, the Harrower of Souls. There we go. The red-black Valgavoth. Because that one, when they take damage on their turn, I'll be able to draw a card, and the deck is going to do some degree of punishing. I've got the same Mogus in my deck that they have in the pre-con. Those two, they hold hands real good. If you've got the Valgavoth on their upkeep, if they're not sacrificing a creature, they're taking a damage, and you're drawing a card. It's beautiful.
Yeah, those combo really well together. Everything I've seen gameplay-wise from those, it's disgusting when they're out together. Yeah. All right. Well, Quinn, thank you so much. This was a great time. I really appreciated this.
Thank you so much for having me. I love any opportunity to fangirl about my favorite deck.
We'll definitely have to have you back on. We can talk about more of these amazing decks as you brew.
Yeah, I'd love to talk about Marty Phoenix's in depth.
We'll have to definitely do that. Yeah.
Okay.
So feel free to plug away everything you got.
Yeah, I have been Empress Quinn. Thanks so much for hanging out, gamers. You find me on Twitter at Girldick Energy, in the Twitch chat at Girl Redacted Energy, co-hosting the Heroes Blade Vibe Check podcast with the homie Cole, wherever good podcasts are sold, and co-hosting the Twitch stream MTG Lexicon. You can get to all of that from the links in my Twitter bio. We've also got the Moxfield and the SoundCloud and the I think that's it. Moxfield, SoundCloud. Yeah, that's the other links in the Twitter bio. So yeah, just click on the links, engage with the content, give me the good brain chemicals. You know the drill. It all feels real good.
And we will have links to all that down in the description of this episode as well, and a link to the deck so that you can go check it out and follow Quinn on Moxfield. We'll be back in a couple weeks. We are doing Laz has built Cleopatra from the Assassin's Creed set. We're going to take a look at that. We're going to punch it up a little bit. And yeah, it should be a good old time. You can find me on Twitter at BrewitCody. You can find the podcast on Twitter at Brewit or Brew Review MTG, and on Instagram at Brew Review MTG. You can email us at brewitorscrewit@gmail.com. And at the time we're recording this, and by the time this is live, I'll have had 2 articles go up on manapool.com upgrading the Death Toll precon and the Miracle Worker precon for Dustmorn. Right before, they should both be out just before the set releases. So yeah, go check that out if you're looking for some cards to grab with those precons. Once again, thank you so much to Quinn for coming on, talking Owling Mine, teaching me about things I did not know were a thing in the past with Magic. So I appreciate that.
Hell yeah. Thanks for having me. It's been lit.
I am so bad about this every single time. So to exit the show, we say this brew has been, I'll say this brew, and you'll say has been reviewed.
Perfect. Got it.
Yeah. And I'll cut all of this, and this won't remain in the episode, I swear. So yeah. This brew
has been reviewed. Later, gamers.